Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first to Spartan Grown.
Cheers, everybody. I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word with no spaces. Or you could shoot me a email at spartangrown@gmail.com or russ@gmlarmy.com for all of your growing and lighting questions.
Happy to have you back. And next up, we've got Noah the Grower.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Noah the Grower on Instagram. You can find me there, and most weeks here, and happy to be here.
Happy to have you back. And I guess we'll start off this week with a little bit of extra shout outs because, and it could just be one or it could be a few. And I know Spartan's going to have a few. So while he goes through his list, Noah, you can maybe think of one or a couple or however many, if you can even think of any. But one of the listeners asked, they're kind of a newer grower, getting into the community, kind of trying to find pages that are like how to grow pages on top of the podcast, like Instagram pages they can follow other people in the community. Definitely, checking out people that are in this very show's live chat, which by the way, click over onto the live chat or all chat if you're in the top chat or whatever it is, so you don't have a bunch of people filtered out and you can see all the cool people that get to hang with us and not have random messages arbitrarily blocked out because YouTube algorithm decides they don't want a certain word or whatever. But with that being said, I think you know, there's a lot of great people in the community, and it can be hard for newer growers to, and I don't know if they're looking for the biggest of the big or the smallest of the smaller or anything in between, but are there any pages out there that you would recommend to a new grower to follow there, Spartan Grow?
I think one of the ones that I really enjoyed when I in my beginning journey online was Grow Weed Easy. I think that's a really well put together page. It has searches, so you can search for topics and almost like an article style for each topic, so you can get like as much as you want on a certain topic. You could read it all the way through to be in depth. Maybe you want to skim through and just get a number or something to follow. And I liked it for that. On my own time, at my own speed, I could learn. Other than that, I really liked videos. I'm more of a visual learner, or really, I'm one of those guys that if I do it myself, I learn best. So for me to be able at least to watch a YouTube video of somebody doing something, it gave me a way better idea than somebody like in my ear telling me how to do something. I did still utilize that later in my career, I guess, of growing was like at work, I would have a headset on while I was working in the warehouse or whatever, and just listening to different growing shows that I followed on mostly YouTube. But there's tons of stuff on Spotify and other podcast platforms, and just I would say just find one that you like to listen to, right? Because there's going to be some styles or some people that you just don't really like or don't vibe with. Maybe it's a different growth style than what you like, and it's kind of a waste of time a little bit. Don't like force that square peg in a round hole. Just find something that you like, something you will enjoy listening to, and you'll find yourself learning in the process. Something that's still fun.
That's great advice for anything I heard. I think it was Tyler, the creator, being interviewed by Nardwar for like the seventh or eighth time recently, and um, he was mentioning how somebody's like, "I listened to this album and I wasn't really feeling it. Like, what am I missing?" And he's like, "Maybe you're not missing anything. Maybe it just didn't vibe with you. Like, maybe the album's just not for you. Like, don't try and force it to happen." So I think that's good advice for a lot of things in life, but allows me to transition into welcoming our fourth panelist. I'd say our fourth regular. This is kind of the regular crew at this point, the American one.
Hello, Jack, Spartan, Noah Lee, Grower, and everyone in chat. I'm the American one. I'm glad I made it. Yeah, the American one on YouTube and the American one underscore with underscore 18s on IG. And yeah, sorry I'm late, boys.
It's all good. I got a question from one of our growers in the DMs that asked for new growers looking for pages to follow, good accounts that kind of show how to grow or that are doing it themselves, or just, good pages to follow. And Spartan shouted out Grow Eat Easy. I'm going to shout out one who's not with us as often as he used to be, and it's been quite a while, but Dr. MJ, Cocoa for Cannabis, I think is a great site. They have really good guides, not just for cocoa, but for a lot of other stuff as well. And they have a live chat room where a lot of growers just hang out. So if you have a question, you could drop in there, ask your question. Chances are they'll be answered by a experienced grower within, a few minutes or whatever. So I think that's a valuable resource as well. I also want to shout out Build a Soil because, like Spartan said, if you like to watch videos, kind of hands-on, he almost does like a POV, like a camera mounted on your head, and he's like standing in front of his grow tent, walking around. And a lot of people do this, but he just talks you through like, hey, here's our 3.0 soil, and I'm going to plant into this with no amendments, and then here's my whatever it is, and he'll do side-by-side runs of this versus that, and you get to kind of see. And he's got, I don't know, probably 100+ at this point or something grows that have just been documented basically like either daily or weekly or just enough that you'll kind of get a very realistic expectation of what it might look like in your grow if you kind of get things in proper conditions, which he typically does, and he'll tell you the conditions so you can aim for stuff like that. So I think he's another good account to follow. And the last one I'll say in terms of if you are looking for more podcasts to listen to, and they also have videos and stuff, but the Dude Grow Show I think has a lot of good advice, and I watched for a while, and I think that they have a good community over there as well, and a lot of knowledgeable growers and people that help out. So those would be my top three to shout out, and I'll pass it over next to Noah the Grower and ask if he has anybody else in the community that maybe he would shout out.
So, okay, yeah. So there wasn't a lot of information when I first started growing, but I was just looking on my email. So Grow Weed Easy, I've been subscribed to her for a long time. Some of her pictures and videos, she has green hair, so I know exactly who Spartan was talking about. I've watched some of her stuff and have gotten the emails. I have slowly like unsubscribed from a lot of stuff over the years, and I'm still subscribed to that. I'm still subscribed to Ed Rosenthal, and I look at that. I've been subscribed to Build a Soil. I actually bought some Epsom salt from them when I first started getting into organic, and so I've still been subscribed to them emails. But I will say he's not on Instagram anymore. But the guy that I used to follow all the time, and he was definitely brash, but he did know a lot about growing, and he would show tips. Was Coma the Grower, and that's who. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to be Noah the Grower, kind of a because I kind of as an homage to him, but I don't even think he's on Instagram. He gets taken down quite a bit. I actually won like some seeds from him on like a live stream one time, and I actually have bought seeds from him before too. So, and I've had pretty good luck with him. So he's pretty good. But like I said, I think he's on X now, but he hasn't been on Twitter. Instagram for quite a while. But yeah,
I think he
those are
does
the ones
gaming
that-
content and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And when I won the live stream, that's what it was. It was on Twitch, and he was doing some. He was playing Fortnite, and but yeah, that he's been around. So when Fortnite was big, you know what I mean. So he's been around for over 10 years, as far as I know. So
I will say, if anybody runs this case S'mores, just look out for Hermes. I know two people that had those Herm on them. But that said, I also know a bunch of people that grew it and had a bunch of fire. And
totally.
but that strain in particular, and that happens with, I had a couple people in Velvet Punch F2 find it. So it can happen with any strain. I'm not trying to take shots. I just, if I've heard about something, I try to genuinely just pass it on, not as like a dig at the breeder. It's just like, I'll say the specific strain if I've heard it. I'm not trying to say all their gear is garbage, but that's just something to look out for. And that's to be said about OG Kush or Chem or the crosses and things like that. So not to bash on them in any way, but Tao, I'm curious if you have anybody I'm sure you've got a bunch, but it could be
Yeah.
top 3, 5, 10, however many you want to shout out. Just good growers or people in the community that you think are worth being, made note of.
You guys already pointed out a lot of them, but I would say there's this YouTube channel called Cheap Home Grow. They do this podcast called Grow with My Fellow Growers. You guys should tune into that every week. And the Grandmaster Level show, he used to do a lot more hands-on plants and stuff, but there's still a bastion of knowledge coming out of there. And if you really into hash and a whole bunch of cannabis things, you go to Hash Church on Sundays and listen in. There's Levels Grow Room Show, who shows plants. That's his whole gig, showing gardens and grow rooms. And yeah, that's always good. Seed Person One has taken over the Smart and Crispy time slots of Sunday at noon and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Kind of the same thing, a growing show and discussing cannabis plants and how to make it better and grow it better. So yeah, there's a couple. Mostly like on IG, there's not a lot of people that show how that educational videos, but a lot of people even in our chat will show their grow, and you can learn from what they're doing in their own grow. So like I remember
We got shout
think I
out C Person One in his show where that's basically everybody gets on and shows they're growing, shows what they're doing
Yeah, he did.
yeah.
week
Yep.
after week. You know, that's one of my favorite like that.
Hmm.
To be able to check up on it every week, that's just so good because as a grower, it's
Oh,
great to see one spot, but let's see the whole grow, you know.
yeah. The Garden Cultivation Network, Mr. Organics, I think his name is, and C Bunny, they kind of the same thing on Friday night. They show up a whole bunch of people growing and what they're doing. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that you could learn from and get like tips and tricks.
They
Yeah,
really are.
there's
It's
really a lot.
like honestly, the list could go on and on. We could probably do the entire show about this. Um, there's this guy. I mean, I'm thinking a can grower now, but I can't think of their name. It was a Canadian grower. They grow um, pretty fire stuff, and they show basically they're like one of the larger followed grow pages on YouTube. But they do start to finish stuff and instructional stuff, and I should figure it
That
out who it
Mr.
is.
Canucks guy.
Mr. Canucks. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
There you go.
They have really high quality videos too, like
And
the video quality and audio quality and like production value. It's edit where it's interesting to watch and gets to the point.
One
So
great old school one that I honestly just, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I went and checked to see, and it's all still there, is Subcool 420.
I was gonna
I was
shout that
about
Go
out.
to say
follow
that.
that.
You beat me to the
Subcool
punch. That's
Go
so
follow
funny.
that.
and Grow Boss is another one that's not on anymore, but you could. He was yeah, a
Also a
lot of
little
people.
cagey.
He had yeah, but he has like a whole bunch of his followers have taken over kind of, and the Happy Cultivator is one of them. I think that was a Grow Boss guy. There was and you remember Dr. Derek Butt? All right,
I'm not
well, he was
familiar.
an older guy. He was an older guy. He passed away too, but I liked watching his stuff too. He had a lot of insights and was old schoolish.
Clackamas Coot.
There you go, collecting Scoot. I don't know what kind of content he has, but when you find him on shows and stuff,
Type that name in
yeah,
on YouTube or
he does have a website that explains his
Yeah.
yeah
his
Coot
soil
mix.
recipe.
Yep,
That's
And
based
he
on the Cornell mix.
and he answers emails and all that too still. He's more into mycology these days than he is cannabis.
Hey, whatever, man. The Coots mix has done a
Dude
huge,
is a badass.
just like Subcool's Super Soil mix. Anybody who put out a recipe, just like Brandon's Bokashi Earthworks mix, that's gone into the community and helped people grow dank and helped us overgrow the planet.
As
Subcool is my favorite one for sure. Like, but the whole like overgrow legacy and community of all those
well,
growers past,
the whole with
Mr. Tight.
the whole idea of cheap home grow too. There isn't one better than Jim or Clackamas Coot. I mean, that dude,
Talk about budget. It's
he
worm
does not.
castings,
Yeah,
peat, and pretty much like
if
barely
you want
anything
him to
else.
spend money on something, you better have a fucking white paper saying why.
Oh, and he'll call you out for it and ask why. Why does it work? What does it do? Or tell you how it's bullshit
Actually,
if he's looked into it, which he probably has. So I appreciate that about people, though. I love when
oh,
people
me too.
back their shit up with research. It feels better when you can say like, "Hey, this big university spent millions of dollars and figured out," you know, just like we were quoting the Chinese article about how they spent $1 billion of research to figure out that basically underlighting applied by like mylar sheets underneath their trees was improving yields, decreasing molds, increasing sweetness, making more uniform, um, you know, apples and things like that. So I'll take it from wherever I can get it, but it's nice to have the research stand behind it. It's not always, with cannabis, I think especially because it's been so overregulated for so long, the researchers don't necessarily have, and I think even in like, I don't know, corn or other ag, they're probably like, researching like a farmer's field. They don't grow the field, They're not like doing like a test corn crop in a fucking lab. Like that's like a, grow light setup. Yeah, they're going out to a fucking field and then they apply the shit. Or they go out to a greenhouse, you know what I'm saying? So like these cannabis studies are almost like a unique little perspective. And that
Yeah,
actually kind
but
of
like you're saying, you can borrow from egg. Like they do the same thing with like tomatoes, for example. They do spectrum steering whereby they put down red sheets of paper, not paper, but red sheets of like this plastic reflective material around tomato plants, and they get better yields that way. Or I can't remember exactly the reason for the red. But they tried all different colors, and red was the fucking king. So they're using this red plastic mulch basically, and it's not only retaining more water in the soil, but it's also reflecting red back onto the light, red light back onto the plants,
Plant.
which
Makes
is
sense.
cool. Just these little things that they try that can be pretty low tech, but still get high tech kind of results.
Well, they had red under the mylar in that Chinese study, so I wonder if that was part of what it was,
Okay.
like a combination of things. So it act maybe as like a mulch plus the reflectivity of the top part. But that's just it's fascinating, and I love to see the cutting edge, bleeding edge stuff. That's the brand newest, which we did. Somebody sent me a research article. I'm not sure if it's cannabis related or not. I do have a topic that I want to cover at least a bit of for maybe the first hour, and it's about getting into like perspective. And I kind of came across it randomly today. I trimmed up my hair and my beard a little bit, and I was going to get my little broom and dustpan, which I have in like this corner. And when I went over to look at it, the way that I have things arranged, like we have our recycles and other stuff there, and my wife's got some flowers that she put up next to it. And like when I was looking at it straight on, I was like, oh fuck, this thing's buried back there. It's gonna be such a bitch to dig out. I thought I was gonna have to like pull my vacuum out, pull out a whole bunch of other stuff, and like grab it just to get this thing. But I maybe took a step over to the side or even like bent down, like on an angle. And when I saw it from the side, I realized if I just come around a little bit, I can reach in there and snag it and just pop it out and not have to fuck with any of the other stuff. So that's what I ended up doing. It saved me a whole hell of a lot of headache and hassle. And then it got me thinking about, I got a DM recently of a newer grower or whoever, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they're like, hey, I am not sure if I should continue to defoliate. I took like a pound of leaves out of these three plants like 4 days ago, but I feel like it's still too overgrown. And they sent like a few photos from like the top, like angle looking down. And my initial response was like, just based on the amount of weight and like the size of the plants, I felt like the airflow was probably going to be good with that amount of weight. And it didn't look too overgrown, but it was still kind of stuffy. But then they showed a photo from underneath the canopy, and underneath the canopy looked pretty good. And my initial response was like, I would take the bottom 25 to 33% off predominantly because it's not going to be getting a whole bunch of light down there. It's going to interfere with a bunch of airflow. And anything that's like leaf totally on top of leaf, like smothering each other. But I was like, I tend to be on like the less is more kind of side of things. And I was like, I think that you can actually, you know, to some extent, reduce your yield or slow down your growth process if you overstrip just to do it, just to make it look prettier. Because you read it in some, not to bash Grow Eat Easy, but like some of their guides talk about like mainlining, and I've done it myself. And I think that you can get really pretty plants and uniform buds and avoid molds and things like that. But at the same time, I think you could get a larger yield per square foot if you don't go to the full like Schwaz method, which I think the you know mainlining or whatever grow buckets method kind of essentially guides one to do. And so, yeah, I just think that if we change our perspective, and the last thing I'll say on that is if you look at somebody who says, I grew a monster plant in a 1 gallon pot, and they did, maybe it was 5, 6, 7 ounces or something, a big, beautiful, healthy, you know, I don't know, 15, 16 cola plant, bunch of big, healthy, beautiful buds. And then you grow a plant in a 1 gallon pot and you're like, man, mine only got like 3, 4, maybe 5 colas. It was dank or whatever, but it didn't get that big. Like, what the fuck? Well, the perspective on that, I'll just say is like, and this is me. I was me in both of those scenarios. Uh, one of them was in cocoa, and one of them was in soil that wasn't like super zhuzhed up. I wasn't watering in extra nutrients. I wasn't top dressing like weekly or daily or however much I needed to. So when I was 1 gallon versus 1 gallon, I thought like, hey, 1 gallon is 1 gallon, right? Because it's the same size pot. But my perspective was kind of off because with the cocoa, I was giving it much more nutrition and proper nutrition versus the 1 gallon soil. What I was expecting for or hoping to get out of it, I really needed to get at least 3 gallons out of the equivalent soil of the style that I liked, which was just set it, forget it, give it water, and water it till basically it's done or whatever. And so those are kind of a couple of my thoughts on perspective. And I'm curious if Spartan Grown has any general thoughts, comments, or reactions, because I noticed talked about a whole bunch of different stuff and babbled on for a bit.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a question in there. I don't know what I'm answering.
So to tee it up more as like a topic for cannabis growing, I guess, has there been a time or place in like growing cannabis yourself? Because we just talked about different growers to follow. And every
Right.
grower personally has a different perspective. We might all grow, and you and I both grow in similar soils, maybe even the same soil. Like Michigan made mix, the M3 is like our base, and I've got your reamendment recipe or whatever. But all that being said, like there's minor subtle differences. You know, you've got a city picker where I'm in a earth box, and you have this light, I have that light. There's going to be subtle differences for whatever reason. And I think we all come at things from our own perspective. And so I just kind of thought of it as a topic because of like that little random experience I had. Maybe I was just high and thinking about it too much, but I do think there's been many times where maybe my perspective has shifted in growing. Um, like I was a I'm never gonna spray anything guy for a long time, but then I realized there's stuff that's good to spray or okay to spray, and I still reserve it for as a needed basis and like use it as little as possible. Or I'm not one of the admittedly like good IPM perspective. One might say you should apply IPM all the time just to uh, avoid getting stuff. I'm more of a I treat it when it comes, and I'll keep my eye on it close enough that I can get it early. Where a lot of people maybe aren't as diligent or um, nerdy about IPM. Not to say knowledgeable. My knowledgeable person is Matthew Gates, who's not here with us. But if I have any questions or interests or concerns, I go to his YouTube channel and I know how to navigate it to find like this is what that looks like and this is how I can treat it. Here are my options and like here's what I can do. I don't have to actually even talk to him at all. He's put out enough content that I can go and find the answer and the solution within, you know, an hour or less. So um, having different perspectives, going through different things like um, fighting a pest or maybe even changing from, I know you, Spartan, went from deep water culture and now you're in organic soil. So when and why did you change? And maybe like what was the perspective shift on that? Did you just want to try something new? And when you did, you liked the other thing, or were there other factors to it?
Yeah, that's for sure. When I first started growing, it was in cocoa and I'm trying to remember, was it DWC first or was it cocoa first? I did both. But they were all, I think it was cocoa first, and I moved to DWC because it was all in a move to try to like what I didn't like about when I was growing in cocoa was getting rid of the cocoa after I was done. Having to find, you know, some place for that or and to get rid of it. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna try DWC because then it's just water, right? And then when I was thinking to switch from going from basically salts to organics, going back into media, it was out of pure laziness and the whole draw of, oh, you don't have to pH, you don't have to you know, mix up nutrients and make sure everything's balanced and do that every single time you water. You can just literally pour water on it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna try that because that sounds like fucking awesome. That sounds like growing outside, you know. And lo and behold, if you build your soil right, you pretty much can do that. You might have to do some top dressing or something in the middle of that, but your everyday, mostly, you can get away with just fucking pouring water on it and calling it good. And so that was my draw. And that was, and once I tried that and then tried the cannabis, I did see probably a loss in yield for sure, but I did what I felt like get increased like terpene expressions or something. And it could be just like everyone telling you that's what you're going to admit or that's what you're going to see. And because I will admit that I didn't like get that stuff tested to see, oh, it was a 1% or a 5% increase in terpenes or any of those things. Because I didn't can't afford to get every single thing of one of my things tested, man. It's like $70 a test. So all I can say is like to myself, and that's why I'm growing it, right? It's for me to smoke. So I felt like it was better. So I've always stuck with it and it was easier for me. I could literally come home after a long day of whatever the day gave me. And in my own home personal grow, I can literally just spend time with the plants and just pour water on it if it needs it. And then do nothing else if I want to. And that's what it can be, which is sweet, right? I mean, that's like to me, that's like heaven for a hobby, right? It's not like a burden. You want to do it. And so that's why I changed from like being because at first, like at least for me, I was research because I'm spending so much money to get everything set up and to get the seeds, and I wanted to make sure everything was going to be perfect. So I wanted control of everything, And honestly, in my growing career as I've advanced, I've just learned to let go. Just learn to let go and let the plant do its own fucking thing.
It's important to trust nature at times and realize that, sometimes the plant can teach us more than maybe we can learn online or somewhere in a book or magazine article. And whether it was, High Times or Grow It Easy or somebody on Instagram or Ed Rosenthal's or Mel Franks or whoever it is, Um, times change, but I will say that I don't think that the plant does too much. It's been around for thousands of years and it's probably been humbling. Uh, Cocky growers that think they're just going to get in and smash it round one without anybody's help. And then usually round two, they come around, are humble and say, hey, maybe I'll ask advice from people that have done it before. And maybe the humbler folks will go out and ask that advice and maybe rock it their first time. Like I find a lot of female growers or just new growers in general, like if they're willing to seek somebody else's advice and follow through with it, they can have a great first run. And even when you're changing, like Noah, when you changed from, I think you were using Fox Farm and more like hydro-based nutrients to Bio 365 and organic feeds and things of that
Mhm.
sort, how did your kind of perspectives shift in growing cannabis? Because I know you did it a bit outside in terms of organics for like growing food, but growing cannabis, I know it's a big deal for you. It's a big part of your life, and making that commitment could be hard. So, what was
Hmm.
that perspective change like?
Well, what I did when I started growing outside my raised garden beds, I did some hugelkultur that I learned from my buddy Full Duplex. But then I also went to Clackamas Coots website, did some of that. Actually went to Clackamas because I live in that close to that area that he lives in, and uh, did a lot of the stuff and set that all up for my outdoor garden. And I've done a little top dressing here and there. With my indoor, I was using Ocean Forest Fox Farm with like kind of like a salt based. I was still doing soil, but I was doing Ocean Forest Fox Farms soil. But I switched to Bio 365 and I was actually using BioBiz and then like a couple other amendments that I was using myself, trying to be all organic, but also still, as some people would give me a little poke for, still being a bottle baby. But and I like the BioBiz. I like having a little control over it, being able to look at my plants and know, obviously have a schedule, but also, hey, this needs a little bit of nitrogen, so I'm going to up the dosage a little bit, or I think this needs a little bit of, CalMag, so I'm going to up the dose of that a little bit. So I was, able to control a little bit more. But and now I do kind of a mix. I do a little bit of salt, but I do mainly BioBiz. I still use the Bio 365. So I'm constantly evolving, constantly changing. Different strains need like they in veg they'll need way more nitrogen. Certain plants and flower will need way more phosphorus. So it's kind of like most, I don't would assume other growers are in the same spot, but I will definitely dial in strains and also grows different size plants. If it's in a 7 or if it's in a 5, or if I was lazy and it's in a 2, just depends, on the situation and the size of the plant and what's going on with my square footage in my grow room and everything else.
I think that is a great answer. And next, I got a question for Tao, I guess, in terms of perspective. How have things maybe changed over the years? I know you've been doing it for a long time, whether it's indoor versus guerrilla growing outdoor, or even like a little hidden plant in your garden outdoor, like just outside of the house or wherever it is that you're staying,
Yeah.
compared to like indoor growing and growing in different states. And you've seen kind of a lot shift through the many years of growing it. So, any different kind of differences in perspective through all that change?
Yeah. When I started, the very first plants I grew were outside. My buddy came back from college and he went to North Carolina. And he's like, my buddies gave me seed. Let's go plant them. So we did. And we were giving him, I think it was Peters powder. It was like Miracle Grow, but a different brand. It was Peters or Schultz. I forget. But that shit turned out killer. So say what you want, but that shit was the best weed I smoked up until that point. And I was like, I'm never buying another $55 eighth as long as I live. But I probably did maybe once or twice after that. But ever since then, I've been growing my own. So that started it. And I was using Peters inside it with ProMix, and then I switched over to Advanced Nutrients and ProMix for a long time. And I had a funky harvest once. They were like my plants ended up looking like lollipops. There was a round bud at the top, maybe a couple underneath it, but it obviously wasn't like normal. And come to find out that I never ever flushed them, and they were definitely salt buildup fucked. So when I realized that was the case, I'm like, fuck that shit. Why would I want to use stuff that could fuck up my plants? So that's when, or around that time, I learned of Subcool Super Soil. The way he did it. So I said, I'm going to try that, and I never looked back after that one. Um, I will say I tweaked it a little bit, but I'm gonna the next batch I make, I'm gonna make it the same way, but I'm gonna use my own earthworm castings. That's mainly the biggest difference, and I added a couple other things in. But if you go with the straight old school subcool super soil recipe from whatever before he passed, even the first one he ever made, maybe that worked fine. It was killer freaking weed with just water, like Spartan said. But now that my recent move, I learned a lot too. One of the things that is a downside to organics is if you have your plants in small containers, they will start hurting, and it's hard, especially in solo cup or 1 gallon. Once they get too big, to try and feed them proper with organics it was a struggle for me. So yeah, they all got hurt a bit. And you need if they were in bigger containers, they would have been fine. I should have transplanted them up sooner. So you need room, and yeah, there's plus and minuses, but um, I do believe that the product is better coming out of a organic situation mostly. But like then again, that my situation, I didn't have all the proper knowledge of the time, and now people growing in soils are doing way better. They I'm sure that even the nutrient companies have realized that they don't want to force their customers to over fertilize their plants as much as they did in the past, perhaps. So I think that's the biggest problem with soil nutrients is you could over fertilize, and then it definitely hurts the product if you got too many nutrients, in my opinion.
Especially once you get used to a product, whether it's grown with salts or organics, that wasn't overfed and it smokes so smooth and it was flushed and it's clean, white, soft, fluffy, easy on your throat, like, good burning ash.
Yeah. And
Are
I
you
don't
sure
care.
you're supposed to be flushing?
Yeah, I was just about to
Sorry,
say,
I couldn't resist.
I don't care who studies show this and that. I'm with 100%. If you're doing salts, you want to flush at the end. And yeah, I
Even
even did.
organics, if you give like a top dress of
Yeah.
something
Yeah, you
heavy,
can't.
late,
Yeah.
it
Dude,
you can taste it. It'll fuck it
not
up like
even
like a
heavy.
bat guano or like a blood meal or
Dude,
something.
I
Like
just put Roots Organic regular soil on top one time because it needed a little extra at the end. And I don't know if you know the smell of that, but yeah, it was on the taste, bro. It definitely affects it. Anything you put in late flour could affect the taste.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. If you had to put some kind of mineral or food into the plant late, what would it be? And I think if I could find some of that flowering CalMag that doesn't have the nitrogen in it, so it's just calcium and magnesium and nothing else, I might I might give it that if I felt like week 7 it was fucking fading too hard or something. Maybe I might give it a little bit of calcium because calcium's been shown. I've been seeing things that calcium has been shown to increase the flavor. When I say flavor, blind test when they just smoke at the end. They say, oh, that tastes better. The same strain, the same things. The ones that were fed calcium supposedly had some better flavor. That and of course sulfur, right? So that's why gypsum's one of my favorite. I was talking in chat earlier about one of my favorite top dresses was gypsum. Well, it's because it's got that calcium and sulfur. Um, but also worm castings. I always put worm castings in there.
those were the two I was gonna suggest. Like literally like that what I was gonna exactly. I was like thinking gypsum as you were talking about the other ones, and then like sure enough, and worm castings is like I've never had a negative side effect of that. But it's I guess to play as devil's advocate, maybe it could have a little bit of a nitrogen you wouldn't want super late if you went super heavy on the worm casting super often, or like did like a slurry like some people will do. They'll put like it in like a water bottle, shake it up, and then like water that in with the castings and the juice or water or whatever, tea, like essentially. Um, I think they call it like a soak or a rinse versus like a tea where it's brewed. So late flower, that could be like the only way I wouldn't go about doing it that way. But top dressing it or, watering it in regularly, I think you're gonna be fine. And tend to not have too many issues, but I still like just like some cool used to say, just water only the whole time. And like um water only has me in the grow more often and happier in the hobby. And if you make something easy to do, then you'll do it well. And so setting yourself up kind of for success is a perspective. Like I was thinking, oh, I got the best nutrient line and I could grow dank with it. And I'm measuring out these things with this pipette perfectly every single time. But it was like, it was taking me time, it was effort, it was energy, it was something I didn't like to do. And not to say that it's bad, I grew fucking dank, and I could still like I've thought about going back to it just because it's a quick. If I wanted to like, right now I'm not growing, so if I wanted to do a quick grow under 100 days, veg to harvest, I would probably do it in cocoa, just because my veg in cocoa historically is maybe a week or two, maybe 10 days faster than I can veg a plant to 12 to 14 inches or whatever with several colas in a small pot. That's just my own personal lacking. I haven't gotten my organics to that point. I've never done a soil test. I've never used some of Brandon's Bokashi Earthworks products that are like the liquid available nutrients that might take my organic grow from maybe like a 8.5 or 9 out of 10 to like that 9.5 or 10 performance level that I could potentially get out of cocoa in terms of like growth. Um, all the other aspects, more of like the sustainability, personal, just like enjoyment and reusability, et cetera, are why I ended up more on the organic side of things. But that said, I'm fine with anyone and everyone doing both. I'm not like a this one or that one. I'm a, hey, there are people actively rallying against us having the right to do this at all. So let's all come together, unify, unite, and focus on what matters. And like that's just keeping it going, keeping it growing, and get more people growing. Because shockingly, few people have ever seen a live plant. And I've said that a bunch on the show, and people are like, Jack, you keep repeating yourself. Well, guess what, people? It's still the case. Show your friends plants. Show your mom a plant. Show your dad a plant. Show your uncle, if they're still around, whoever you've got in your life, your family, even if they're not cannabis people, just show them a plant, like a veg plant. It doesn't have to be in flower. Or if they like weed, maybe show them one in flower. Like just pull one plant out of the room when they're over one time and walk it out into the living room, set it on the fucking table right in front of them, and let them just smell it, touch it, play with it a little bit. Who gives a fuck if you lose a little bit of trichomes if they touch it or rub their nose up against it? Maybe you can tell them ahead of time, like only touch this one, or try not to touch the actual bud, just touch the stem and smell it from
Yeah.
like an inch or so away. Don't get your nose and stash all in there. But
Or when they touch it, just come up behind him and smack him as hard as you can in the back of the head, like that, and they won't do it again.
yes, there you go. So perspective. It's like the Bobby Knights, you got your strict disciplinarian, and then you got your like Mike Krzyzewski or whatever at Duke over there, who's like the you know, loving, supportive, kind of softer, uh, you know, coach them through it. But however you go about doing it, show someone a plant that has not seen one. Show anyone. I don't care. Like, do what Chef Anna with the pot. Shout out to that person. Follow them. Chef Anna with the pot used to go into fucking Walmart with plants like autoflowers in flower, like ready to be harvested. Walking around like, oh yeah, they got them over in the flower aisle. Like you didn't get one? Like, oh, I might have got the last one. Sorry, y'all. And then like people are like, no way. And it's like he would like give out free jars of weed and shit. But shout out to Chef. I think that was Chef Anna with the pot. I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
Uh,
yep. Chef Fan with the pot.
that's a Detroit based or Michigan based, right? So
Yeah,
shout out
yep,
to another Michiganja killing
yep.
it. Yeah, it's just like we got to get more people growing and we got to get more people knowing that it's like it is just a plant, dude. It's not going to hurt anybody. Sit it on the table. It's like some people get uncomfortable about anything, it's from like a knife to a gun to fire, um, anything that's slightly dangerous. With freedom, we get exposed to danger. It could be driving, maybe someone's driving a little fast on the highway or whatever. It could be so many other things, but like I think people deserve to be kind of exposed to these things and realize, hey, that thing in and of itself is not dangerous. It's just a plant. You know, it's even what you may have been told about it is maybe not true, Like me. I'm not the person that was depicted in these things that you saw, like all this Reefer Madness campaign, etc. Um, and yeah, maybe unveil yourself to somebody that won't get you fired, or excommunicated from your family if you're in one of those situations. I understand. Some people will literally are like, um, maybe their religious community or maybe they're just the way that they were brought up. They're viewing cannabis differently than anyone here would. And I understand that. I've definitely been in those circles, and I still kind of advocate now because I'm outside of them and I don't have to worry about or deal with it. But I can definitely sympathize and empathize for people in those situations. And it's not the most fun, but still, I think you can find maybe that one fun cousin that you smoke a joint with at the wedding or whatever it is, and show them the plant. Teach them how to grow for themselves so that they can get it without having to drive, who knows, probably like an hour away and buy it from somebody shady and get ripped off. So that stuff still goes on. It blows my mind. I was doing it just a few when I was in grad school in Florida, man. Like this was before any of the Florida legalization, but it was not a good setup, not a good situation. And I just think we need 10x the number of growers. Not like two times, not like five times, 10 times or 100 times the number of growers. Like everyone who has ever smoked before should be able to say, I've grown and smoked my own at least once, even if you don't like it, which I think is unlikely. But try it, and even if you don't like it, or even if they don't like it, even if they totally fail, you can even hook them up with like some of your extra soil, hook them up with some extra seeds, give them your old lights, hook people up, make more people grow. It's just like,
Even a
that's a
clone. Some people you can take a clone, put it outside, and forget about it, and still have something at the end.
I've gotten at least half a dozen people growing doing exactly that. Or like I had too many females. I did popped a bunch of seeds or whatever, did sex tests. I needed X amount. I had two, three, four, however many left over. Gift them to people or your neighbors, your friends, your family, whoever. And then you'll come back maybe sometimes a few months later and they'll be like, hey, remember that little plant you gave me? Here's some weed that I grew. And you get to try it. And it's like, holy shit, that's so cool.
Well, that's the easiest way too, is to gift it to somebody in the springtime when they can throw it outside, because they don't have to go invest in a room or a tent or all the supplies with lights and fans and everything. They can literally just stick it outside and maybe keep an eye on it and make sure that it gets enough water and get something at the end of it and be so thrilled about it. Like I did that and it was easy. Now I want to take it inside. Now I want to learn how to grow. And now you got another grower for life, and that's fucking what we need. So
I know a guy who's legally blind. He used old milk carton, just a cardboard, I think, quart of milk, quarter of a gallon, I think is what it, quart, whatever it is. I don't know. Filled that with soil, planted a seed, and did that like three or four times over. Put it in their windowsill and grew, like a couple 1.5 to 2 foot tall plants and harvested, maybe an ounce or two out of these plants of homegrown bud. And again, legally blind and just in the windowsill of their house with just some normal soil, like nothing crazy. And it can be that simple. We like to overcomplicate it because we like to maximize literally every ounce, like gram, ounce, pound per square foot, inch, or whatever, and get the best return on our electrical usage. And I think that's kind of a fun aspect of any hobby too, is kind of like getting to the highest performance you can possibly achieve and trying to maintain that. Because even if you know exactly what to do, which I feel like at certain times I've gotten to that point, and there's always more to learn, but like I know enough to grow dank, but that's not to say that I do my best every single run because some factors are outside of our control. And you know, making your setup, I think, to allow for that is something that with time we can all do. Like if you're going to travel, having adequate plant sitters or setting up systems like those like watering globes or whatever, where you stick it in and it basically acts as like a almost like a sip essentially in your soil and things like that, where you can extend your time away by a little bit, or even just like overfilling the plant and like having it sit in the runoff water and allowing it to re-suck that runoff water back up, things like that. Just if you have a runoff tray, you can do that. Where if you're just like in an open room and it's just going to flow off into the floor, or they're even like elevated where the runoff is dropped and drained out, making those little adjustments can allow you to get away with things that maybe caused problems in the past. Those are just a couple that I was thinking of in terms of like traveling and coming back to errors or issues and things like that. But sometimes it's like out of our hands, power going out. But then you could say, hey, Jack, you can get a generator or battery backups or solar or this or that. There are legitimate options. It's the affordability. That's where it starts to get maybe not cheap home growy in some aspects, but
Well,
it's
that's where I think I look at it as like this is my hobby, right? And all hobbies cost money usually. And so, yeah, it might cost me a little money to upgrade, but that's going to make my life easier. It's going to make my hobby more fun for me. And it's a worth if it's a worthy investment, it could be cheap as far as it doesn't. It can be it could cost a lot of money to get something cheap, right? Like I bought a Rotovap that was fucking over 2 grand, but that was cheap as hell for what I got. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's all a matter of perspective for sure.
it's like I can go buy a turkey at the store for Thanksgiving, and I think it's like I don't know, 15 to 30 bucks, depending on like if it's organic or if it's not, if it's how heavy it is and things like that. Or I can go spend 100 something dollars on like my hunting license, get a bunch of equipment, gear, etc., camouflage, and then go spend like I don't have to pay for gas, but a lot of people pay for gas driving to and from, spend all this time, money, effort, energy just to like go maybe bag one bird, like if any. Like I've been unsuccessful on many a hunt, so even then, it's a hobby. So I fucking enjoy it. It's nice to get into the outdoors, the physical exertion, the Shinrin Yoku or the forest bathing, as the Japanese call it, just being underneath trees that are letting off terpenes and other things that are, I think, therapeutic. And there's been papers now to support that. But just getting into the perspective stuff, Eric I says, has anybody tried autoflowers outdoors? Any tips? And I'm curious because I have not. I think Spartan might have.
My only tips really about autoflowers outdoors is succession plant them. You can plant early, plant them early now, kind of. It's hard because you plant them now and they don't not getting a lot of light, and then they end up flowering with a lot of light, which I guess is not bad. And then you're throwing in the next batch, they get a lot of light, and that by the time of harvest, they're not getting a lot of light. Um, but what I really liked to do is if you already have an outdoor grow and you're growing photoperiod plants, you can grow in between because usually if you're growing the photoperiod plants, you're growing them on like, I don't know. I don't know how big outdoor generally grow, but at least 5 foot center, so at least 5 feet from each other to give them enough space to get big. So you have big aisles at first when they're young. And when you have those young aisles, at the same time, you can plant autoflowers, or you can maybe even start the autoflowers a little early and then bring them out. But so those autoflowers will finish, right? They'll flower out and you cut them down and right at the time that you need them to be the hell out of there because then the photo periods that are on the, because you're growing in the aisle, the photo periods will be getting big and starting to grow and to fill those aisles at that time. So it's pretty nice to if you can plant it that way too. So it gets you like a bumper crop in the fall of autoflower that you normally wouldn't have. And then you'll still have photo period flowering.
First time I saw that implemented, I've heard people talk about it, but was I think it was Sequence Greenhouse in Michigan. Shout out to another Michiganja. But yeah, man, that was a really well used square footage because they just got a bunch of pretty good flour that was in space that I mean, just to think that I don't know how much it was, ounces, pounds, however much, but just like all of that was essentially not like free, but it's like in terms of like space that you weren't using during that time because like while the photo periods were vegging and not big enough to take up all the aisles, the you know autoflowers were vegging right alongside them and just flowered before they got big enough to need space. And if you time it right, that's a very achievable thing to do. Depending on, plant counts and things like that, it might be harder for some people to pull off than others. But I like your idea of the succession planning where even if you only have like a six plant count, you could do like one or two today, and then one or two next week, and then one or two in like 2 weeks. It doesn't even have to be like spaced months apart, but like even if you did like every 2 weeks or whatever, um, you'll then start to learn. Well, and unfortunately, nature be nature. And some years, some people say there's cycles, and I do believe something about cycles in certain places. But some years you're gonna get a fucking killer crop if you plant, let's say July 1st. Just throw a random fucking number out there. Um, in California, you can plant like February, so it's hard for me to have perspective. Like we have such a weird weather in Southern California. It's really mild and good most of the year, but some years it's wet. Like we've randomly had a few wet years, and then there's fires. And but even if you planted July 1st every single time, um, then you'll realize like the July 1st versus the July 14th is going to be a little bit different, even if it's the same strain from like a very reputable breeder that's very consistent. Um, which I think, admittedly, with autoflowers, just like with regular cannabis, photo periods, it's rare, I would say. Consistency is pretty rare. Like if you get in the wheelhouse, you should be pretty happy to like a breeder's description. It's, I'd say, fairly rare that you're going to get 100% of everything you read or exactly like the description. Um, some are better than others at that, but like not many people are in like the ultra stabilized game, like where corn and stuff are like F6 to F6 crossed to each other and making a true F1 and getting exactly like they know yields of, per bushel or per acre or whatever kind of thing. We're not at that point quite yet. We're gonna get there, and I'm sure some people like Phylos and others are working on that kind of shit. But the stuff that's really the most interesting and fun, I think, is still like the chems and the OGs and stuff. That's probably gonna hurt me a little bit, but might be so fire. It's just like, people are gonna grow it and smoke it and enjoy it anyway because it smells so good, it tastes so good. I think I shouldn't say whatever is in the GMO, but just like GMO and all the crosses thereof. I have some stuff. It's called black garlic, and it's like it's old. It's still so good though. It's so terpy that it just like I don't know if that kept it fresher, but this is like some of the freshest old weed I've ever come across, and it is so good. And it's just like that GMO under carrying. It's just like so obviously that just garlicky, funky goodness. It's so terpy, and that seems to stick because like, and granted, like a lot of the stuff that we have from back that in that time was still smelling pretty decent, but this one is like it smells brand new. It smells like when I harvested it, and it's like holy, it's just so strong and distinct that I think that's a really special one. I think we're going to be talking about GMO in 20 years, like we're talking about Chem and OG, and maybe cookies and some of the other major GG4,
G4, yeah.
like
That makes
staple. And Donnie Burger might even be in that book, but I mean, it's just essentially a
that's GMO.
GMO
So
replicate. It's a GMO in cross or back cross, whatever you want to call it. And there's some OG in there, which is also killer shit. But um, he found the GMO too, so it's just like, man, Skunk House. I always drool over his shit because it's so good, but I still have not found a bad Donnie. Like the worst Donnie I've come across is like 8.59 out of 10. Like the worst representation I've ever had of it is that good. So
What do you think about hash burger? Have you ever grown that before? Has anybody
not
grown
yet.
that?
Not yet, but I want to. I would grow any burger. I would grow double burger. I would grow triple burger. I would grow,
Triple burger was a good one. Double burger was a good one.
even like
Papa burger was a good one.
there were some fruitier ones too that were like apples and bananas crossed to it. But like I would grow it even anything that he put out. Like maybe this is fanboying or whatever. Like I think it'd be worth trying just because everything else was so fire. It's just like there's pretty good chance. Like if everything else he did was fire, it's like sub cool. Like it's like some guys truly have the fucking fire. And like when you find them, go to them. Uh Tao has another good one. He's an old school guy, AK Bean Brains. Tao himself. Tao's Amy Aces is fire. But there's so many out there that don't consistently have it, but like sub cool that like he had like 30 strains. Like I could name like 10 that are just in my top 10. I think like he really fucking had it. And I think Mr. Soul's another one, Brothers Grimm. He really brings a lot of fire from the Grim Glue, which is like heavy indica, to Cindy 99, which
Yeah,
is like
because
super rippy sativa. Like
all
Shout
those,
out to him,
all
man.
those.
I
I was
saw
just gonna,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say all those people tested their strains after they made them. That's like, and that's what separates them more. I believe more than anything else. They actually grew the shit out and tested it.
that's how you get accurate descriptions. That's why I like vetting breeders, and that's why I only suggest like 50 or less. And there's thousands out there. So take that for what it's worth. I'm not taking shots at the other ones, but I think just like I'm a big fan of just freedom in general, and people should have the freedom of choice. If they want the untested cross of X cross to Y because they like X strain cross to, and they like Y strain, they know they like both of them. Chances are, even if you got it from a guy who hasn't tested it at all, they might like the offspring, and that's fine. But that guy might have also hermed a bunch of people's gardens and fucked a bunch of people over because they didn't test anything. So keep that shit in mind. And
Yeah,
I try not to recommend the people that do, a new drop of like 15 strains cross to their biggest male. And then next month they got the other 15 strains cross to their biggest male. And that you get 80 strains out of them a year. And it's like they're prolific, but how much testing is being done?
They should tell people that they're untested. Because that
Right.
happened with a couple of big releases, right? That what was that? What candy something?
Cookies, Candy Rain. Yep. It was
Yeah,
like
I remember like everybody
17 out of 20 like didn't pop. And then like the three that did were like mutants and herms. Like
I like
that
the
was really
triploid,
bad.
the whole triploid fiasco. Who was
Yeah, I
it?
heard that was
Humboldt Seeds put out, I
Almost
think, a
Sedges.
triplet, and it was not well received. I think they
right
yanked it
because
from the market because it did so poorly. And that could have
yeah,
been found in testing, but maybe I will give. I like Humboldt Seed Company, and they've put out a lot of really good stuff. So I can't not to give them a pass, but they've they have done a lot of great work,
oh yeah,
and everybody has misses from time to time. Like, maybe it could have done more testing. I think they're trying to be bleeding edge, cutting edge with the triplet
be the
thing.
first one there.
Yeah. Might be a rush to market or just again going to accessibility. Maybe they're trying to like look at it from like, hey, we want to get this out there to the people. I think they did that with like Freak Show and some other stuff too. So maybe it's a balance because like if you wanted to wait until something was perfect to release to market, you might never release it. And like I was with like Velvet Punch, for example, I got to F3. I'm happy with where it was at the F3. Did a lot of different testing at the F3, and I was like, you know what? Is F4ing this going to what will change? Like how much more stable is it going to get? How much different is it going to get? And how many more years do I want to commit to this specific product and this specific project? So I realized it was far enough developed at F1. I was doing it for a separate thing that was just like a goal and just teach myself to learn about breeding, to learn about, how does the process actually work? What does it change from F1 to F2? How does it change from F2 to F3? I need to see it firsthand for myself because I've heard other people say X, Y, and Z, and I saw a lot of the stuff confirmed. Some funky random stuff popped out at F2, even though it wasn't a true F2. And people like will be like, oh, it's not a F1 unless you take a F6, cross to an F6, and then make a true F1. It's like, well, although that might be true, I've seen exactly what we're talking about, like from like hybrid vigor to, um, you know, the amount of random shit that pops out of like I think the grandparent generations. Like when you cross something the first time, you get like mom and dad genetics, right? But then like that second cross, I think you start getting grandma and grandpa. And when you get deep into cannabis genetics, there's a whole bunch of funky shit going on, sometimes just a little bit below the surface. And you start to see that stuff pop out. It's like my brother had red hair and we didn't know. My mom was blind adopted. We found out later in life she was Irish. And so he had red hair for a while, just like a year or two randomly. And like no one else in my family had red hair ever. So it was kind of a
Guys, checking
random
out
thing.
the mailman there or what?
I think that, yeah, maybe there might have, I can't even imagine putting myself in my dad's shoes, thinking about like what the fuck was going on there. But she always thought she was like Swedish because she was blonde haired, blue eyed. And we have a concrete guy who does work at my mom's house. And he's from Ireland, like has a thick Irish accent. And she's like, I got my
Does he
DNA
have red
test.
hair, Jack? Does he have red hair?
I don't know if he does or doesn't. I haven't met him personally.
Yeah, does he
They
look like your little brother?
they moved. This guy is like way younger, and this is like they met far way after my brother was born. So this is a
Don't worry, that's what I'd say too.
but
I'm
the
just messing with you, brother.
all this aside, my mom goes, I got my DNA test back and it said I'm like 96% Irish. And so she's like thinking it's wrong because she's been told her whole life that she's Swedish or whatever.
My mom
And
is not a. No.
and then she goes, fucking the guy who does the concrete work, he goes, oh, you look just like my mother. So she's like, oh, I guess maybe the fucking DNA test is fucking right because they test millions of people, and I guess I don't know. I another random thing about Irish DNA. I saw Conan O'Brien, the show host, is like actually 100% Irish. Which even if you go to Ireland and test people, they're not 100% Irish because other people from other countries have come in, and intermixing of DNA happens, and it's not like any shocking thing. But when people immigrated to the U.S. and the communities were small enough that they
Stuck
in
with
a
each other.
sense, literally stuck with each other because Irish, for just like Catholic and from Italy and others who came in those years, went through a lot of hardship and were kind of segregated and hated upon and kind of stuck with each other. Well, he ended up finding out that like his, a lot of his DNA is shared with his past ancestors essentially. So there's like some inbreeding that was done. He has like super long legs and a really short torso. So like he like showed that like
Totally looks Irish.
he
100%
showed it
Irish.
off and he's like, man, it's like the craziest thing. Like I just like he has to get his suits tailored to like hide his disproportionate body size. So genetics and DNA, it's very real and interesting shit. So just figured I'd throw out those random tidbits about Jack since y'all have been listening for all these years and uh, you get a little bit of random perspective talk now going into genetics and DNA and all that different stuff. But we were talking kind of about autoflowers and getting back to that. I know a lot of people have more success with them outdoors in areas where maybe they can't typically grow a photo period. They won't have the length of season. In like the UK, they're popular because a lot of the rains and stuff will make it not doable. They'll get molded or, frosted out. And so autoflowers make it possible in places like that, or like small apartment complexes, etc., where people just like maybe they don't have the power run in the country they're at or whatever to support an
Alaska,
indoor grow.
like Jeff Lowenfels, because he lives in Alaska.
Yeah, you could take advantage of those 24-hour sun
Yeah,
cycles.
24 hours. You can't even get the thing to flower during that time, right?
Autos will. I mean,
Right.
some.
Oh, as well. Yeah.
That's what he's saying. Like that's the kind of like the whole point. And like he wanted the autoflower to be like the tomato. Like have your kind of like I was talking about earlier. Like get your grandma growing, get your mom growing, get like everyone growing. Just like if everybody's growing it in their front yard, it's real hard for the government to tell people that it's bad.
Should
Because
I
guess what?
finally start my GoFundMe? You know what my plans are, right? Get the helicopter, get 1 billion+ beans, and just go crisscross America, dropping beans everywhere. And then, yeah, some are going to land on fertile ground, and we'll just have free plants everywhere. So if they all get seeded, you just make some edibles or make hash out of it. I guess dry. So did you guys ever run a water hash with seeded weed?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't. I'm sure it probably wouldn't work well. Who the fuck knows
I
though?
don't know why it wouldn't. I think it
Well,
would.
it gets
I don't think they're germinating under those conditions. So
right. I guess if you don't like, because I always let my seeded weed, seeded plants, if they're seeded on purpose, I let them go extra long. I guess you wouldn't want to do that if you're going to wash it. But
hey,
that's
though,
a great question, man. Maybe it's
I
even
could pull up this
better.
post of this like Afghani hash
See,
where they let it go super long and they literally let it get snowed on in the
yeah,
mountains.
yeah.
And
You know what you do is dry sift it. That's what
It's
you
what. Uh,
that is the way I think dry sift. That's just generally my
but I
preference
was going
now
to
at
say
this point,
maybe the
though.
seeds and the ice would even help, knock off the resin glands a little more aggressively without.
I think it gets more resin when they're fucking pollinated.
Oh, yeah, the samples that I have seen with my seeded plants is ridiculous amounts of resin.
That's, I think,
I,
one of the biggest myths.
I
That's a
think
big
you're right.
perspective to bust because I was always told, oh, once it gets pollinated, it dedicates all of the energy to making the seed, which generally I'm sure that has to be true to some extent. But
No,
every
yeah,
time I've made seeds, they're so fucking frosty.
yeah,
And like if
because
I
it's
smoke the product, it's always fucking good.
no,
Like
they
give me a
don't
piece of
make
Kinder
more
Morgan, man.
flowers though. That's they yeah. That's not that they stopped growing resin. They stopped growing more pistils for a while.
I've heard people say resin though. They're like, oh, it's not going to
Yeah,
make any
that's not
resin. It's not
definitely
going to
not
make any
true.
THC. It's not going to make any blah, 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 blah. And then when people get
Definitely
their stuff
fallacy.
hermed, they chop
Yeah.
it down and they're like, oh, the world's over. I'm going to have a few seeds in my weed. It's like, you're fine, bro. Just finish it. Like at this point, just finish it. Have a little bit of seeds in your weed. Like I grew up in the fucking 90s. We had seeded weed for a long time. It was like a thing. People just broke it down, rolled it up and smoked it. And it wasn't as potent. You just smoked more of it. And
You usually
people,
shared it with somebody else too, so you're happy to get even a fucking puff, all right?
I
yeah,
never grew up, but I dealt with seeded weed.
you never got to
Now,
grow up. Cows living forever.
so listen, the pre-flowers. I had a plant that the pre-flowers got pollinated, just those single bracts, and that shit blew up. So yeah, I'm gonna find the picture. But when you think about it, when that thing gets seeded, it actually makes the bract bigger immediately because the seed is swelling it. So that gives more room for resin on a green. You know what I'm saying? Follow my logic here. But when you get too seeded, it probably if it's too pollinated, it probably detracts from that theory of mine. But yeah, I have a picture of this one seeded bract.
I
It's
seeded the
just
fuck out of plants.
resiny crazy.
Dude, I've seeded the fuck out of plants, like as heavy as I possibly could to make as many seeds as I could. And they were still resin fucking monsters. Like as resinous or more than any unresonated or unpollinated plant I ever grew. So that I think the whole concept that people need to like worry themselves if they have granted, if you were growing like a million plants in a greenhouse for a company and you have a bunch of seeded crops, even then you can make it into concentrate. Like, but the fucking like people thinking in their home grow, having like one herm or something, herm their room is gonna make all the bud unsmokable or something. It's just like it's still gonna be good quality weed. If you're growing good strains and you grow them well, you could argue the herm wouldn't happen if they're being grown well, but there's a lot of random events that can make it happen, and some genetics herm easier than others. So there is that. But I don't think that people need to worry as much about if their one crop gets seeded accidentally. They don't need to like burn it all to the ground and think that they're a terrible grower and need to be excommunicated from the grow community because they've committed some cardinal sin and they need a scarlet letter of H for having a Hermie or something. It's like it's like painted to be this thing like oh, it's almost like an evil deed or something. We don't want them, obviously, but I think it's not the end of the world by any means, and especially now having made several batches of seeds on purpose and smoked the product, it's just fine.
I think it just matters that like for me, like if I'm growing a plant for seed, I'm letting it fucking get seeded, and it's
Yeah.
seed crazy, and you're not really gonna have much left to fucking smoke because you're gonna let it dry, or at least I do. I let it get real super fucking dry before I even start breaking up the buds to go out to the seed because there's a billion freaking seeds in a bud, man. You'd be surprised. And if you let it get dry, you can just kind of crumble it, and it's way easier to separate the seeds that way. And so you're left with kind of already crumbled weeds. So for me, that's not something
Perfect to
I'm really
smoke.
well, I don't know. I said that's not something I'm really trying to smoke. That'd be a little bit harsh.
I just throw it in a bowl. Yeah, that's my approach typically, or you can smoke it in a joint. But I feel like the resin, I don't know if like stickiness adds moisture or something, but like if it's ultra resiny, like it can be, and like granted, I've bounced my shit across screens when I'm
Yeah, I break
de-seeding
up
it.
my seeded weed over the pound over a dry
Exactly.
screen.
And so did I. But even
Yeah.
then,
There's still a bunch on the resin, but when you think about it, you got to manhandle that shit to get to see that. Like Spartan was saying, man, you squeeze it, you think there's no more beans in there, and you like going digging with your fingernail, you're popping out another 10 sometimes, you know?
so my
Yeah.
method when I'm breaking down my seeds is I take a paper towel and fold it in half hot dog style, and I break the buds down as much as I can with my hands um, on my rolling tray. And so I get like a pile of like the seed and the chaff or whatever we'll call it. And it's if I take like a plastic card and like chop it, some of the seeds will poke out the sides or whatever. But essentially what I do is I break it down, break it down, break it down until there's no like lumps. It's literally just like finely ground bud and then seeds. And then to separate those two, I have two different paper towels and I pour it from one to the other. And then after I pour it, all the flour material sticks to the paper towel and a lot of the seeds will roll off. Some of the flour falls off with it, but I'll do that like five, six, maybe 10 times. And by the time I'm done doing that from like one paper towel to the next, I'm left with on my rolling tray because each time I just like brush off the material into like a little pile that I'd smoke. And so I just got into the habit of smoking it while I'm doing some of the separation of the seeds. And it it's not like something that I'm, recommending as like an ideal, but as somebody who makes seeds and has that product, it could be turned into a concentrate or RSO or like whatever. But it's easy enough. Just for me, like I'm sitting on my couch here and it's cheap home grow kind of style. I've seen people use paper plates and like a fan where they're like breaking it down, and then as the fan blows a little bit, the plant material gets blown up and the seeds roll down. So there's a lot of different options to separate the seed. How do you go about when you do break it up, Spartan, getting that plant material from the seed material separated?
Well, I generally use a little bit of gravity and vibration, so I'll use something like a trim tray or any tray, it doesn't matter. And I'll put it on a slight angle and then tap it. And the seeds generally fall down and all the chaff kind of hangs out at the top. And you can brush that away with a brush and collect your seeds into a jar or something like that. And get another scoop of the product, put it in there, and I generally do it sit outside on the porch, a nice breeze and stuff, where because otherwise I would really recommend wearing a mask. I know that sounds fucking uncomfortable as shit, but I mean, there's so much fine particulate matter that you'd be breathing in that I mean, I'm already starting to see more and more people who work in the industry getting injuries like that from not wearing masks, not wearing their PPE, and getting like these unseen injuries, like to their lungs and shit like that. So it's not really to be fucked with.
I'm
Uh,
seeing more of those cases popping up of people dying or getting very seriously injured, or having case reports coming out of cannabis grow operations, trim operations, and things of that nature. And I agree with you 100%. It's something to take seriously, for sure. And especially if you're doing higher volume stuff, even small volume though, soil mixing or seed breaking down and stuff like that, you don't want to be inhaling fine particulate. It's not good for the lungs to have anything of that size to be inhaled. So it's worth considering where you do things like that and how you do them.
but I do save all the plant material and I just throw it in a freezer bag and I use that for my RSO too. I'll just extract it.
Smoke a bowl next time for me of it. Let me know what you think, because I think it'll be better
Smoke a
than you
bowl of
think.
RSO?
No, no, no. Of the that material that you would normally throw in the freezer bag to make into RSO, like the stuff that you separate, the chaff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just scoop aside like a gram of it and smoke maybe a bowl or two. And I know you think it might be harsh, might be terrible. Just try it. Be like, Jack recommended this.
All
I think
right.
you'll be surprised. It'll
I'll be,
be like
I'll be like, Lungs, I apologize in advance, but Jack said I
blame
have to
Jack.
experience this.
I'll say it'll be at least an 8 out of 10 for you. Like just like comparing it to regular ass top shelf best weed you can find out there, homegrown everything. Like it'll be way like bearable to like good. And that was my thing. It surprised me how good it was. Even after like my process, like paper towel is definitely going to take some of that resin off, right? Dropping it from one to the other. And all the process going over the trim tray, when I broke it down, I break it down over my screen. And I literally take the really overly dried nugs and I like hand roll them at a certain point onto the screen because they're just like shooting seeds out left and right. And Spartan's right. A little like quarter size bud, maybe like a US coin, a quarter, which who knows if they'll have those in the future. But the quarter y'all are probably familiar with if you've ever been here, and most of us are from the US. You could get 50 to 100 seeds or more out of a bud that size easily, easily. So just like think about you get thousands of seeds off of a plant that you pollinate on purpose. Easy.
Yeah, and if
If
you don't
it's
have one of those seed sorting machines, that could be a tedious job. It could be many hours of sorting and pulling them out and cleaning them up and yeah, and keeping them dry. There's a lot to go, a lot of goes to doing all that.
labor of love.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like making bubble hash almost, honestly. It's like
yeah.
it's like one of the most laborious processes in growing other than like transplanting or something, which
Trimming.
trimming, yeah. Trimming's I outsourced that for many years to Lady Greenstock, so that's one that doesn't come immediately to my mind. I'm very, very lucky. And
Yo, I just want to throw this out there. My someone from the community sent me seeds, and they just left it in the bud, which works too.
I love that.
That's
It's like a free
I,
sample.
I
You get
won
the
great.
seed.
seeds one time like that, and I met the guy because he was local to me, which was awesome. And he brought me, he's like, I'll bring you some in the bud. That way you can try the bud too. And I was
There
like,
you go.
sweet.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That's my favorite way to get a seed
And when you
is
think about it, I mean, have you guys ever like? 'Cause at one point, I had a crop out in the woods that got thoroughly seeded, and I abandoned it. But I went back like the next spring, I guess, and the shit was still on the plant. Like the buds were still there. Everything was still on the plant. It was bizarro.
It's,
I guess I'm sure some of them
I'm
about
sure
you know
you've
I'm
seen the
sure it
pictures
burned
have you seen the pictures of like the seeds still in a bud that have
and are
sprouted?
growing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild stuff. And that's like on a fresher plant. All those pictures I've seen. So yeah, that was wild though. When I went back there, I thought they were, I didn't think there was gonna. I thought they were actually like gonna be nothing there, but they were still there. I was like, wow.
it's amazing how resilient it can be. And then at the same time, how fast like a group of crickets can come through and just eat a whole fucking field. It's like
Frick, that's fucking deer, man.
deer, yeah,
Deer will destroy a cannabis plant pretty quick.
hogs, fucking wild hogs, dude. The amount of damage they do to agriculture, it's in the
Just do,
billions.
yeah, they just do damage all
Oh,
over.
and humans, fucking humans.
They're the worst of them all, man. The rippers. The rippers. The worst pest of them all.
I would
They
say
only
like at
affect
least
them.
someone smokes it if someone rips it, hopefully. But if the hogs just run through and just destroy it, it's like I guess maybe it's going back to the land or something, but damn, that's just a motherfucker. It's like an invasive
I'm still hunting those
pest.
hogs down, and I'm gonna be eating ham that night. I'll tell you. Tell you what. At
In
least I
Texas, they get up in
they get a
helicopters,
meal.
go ham.
Oh, that's insane. That's craziness.
Like,
That's who's got the money to
well,
run
they
a
do in
helicopter?
Texas, some oil money, bro.
Yeah,
They
they
got some,
do.
and ag
Damn.
money. Some of these big farmers. Think about like it's not who has the money. It's you have no other choice. If you're a huge farm who's making millions or billions of dollars per year, and you have these wild fucking pests that come through and just start destroying your ability to make income. It's like you probably hire somebody from the outside who's got all the equipment already, come through with, night vision and take out huge swaths of them at one time. But yeah, it's fascinating. They're
Or you could buy a fucking tiger.
Mike Tyson, that shit. Texas has more tigers than the wild.
I know they're already there. So just get you a little cub, start you a pack. Maybe some wolves out there too. You'll be all
It is
right.
amazing wildlife can be and is effectively used as management. Like they've reintroduced grizzlies and beavers and other things. Like some would argue effective about grizzly, but the beavers have like saved billions of dollars for certain cities and habitats and things like that by recreating water flows and like building dams that we would have in certain places. So it's fascinating, different stuff, but definitely getting a little off the beaten path here. And I'm curious. What's everyone smoking on? What are you smoking on tonight, Spartan? I know you're typically token down with us.
Oh, I'm barely keeping my eyes open because I've done 2 dabs now of the dirty taxi. And God, it's like narcotic to me for some reason. It's really narcotic. It tastes terrible. Like I think a lot of people love it because of the flavor, but it's a very unique. Like I can see why it's called dirty taxi because it reminds you of like if you passed out on the floor of a taxi and licked the floor or something because it's really not great.
Funky,
Yeah, it's
grimy.
on the GMO side of things, kind of like that kind of funk, but wow. Yeah, so but the high is pretty strong and I do enjoy that, but I can't be smoking it during podcasts because it's making me pretty lethargic.
The black garlic's definitely got my eyes a little bit low, and yeah, a little tired, but I enjoy this conversation so much. It's like a pick me up, like a natural high. So enjoy
I
that
was
for
just
sure.
gonna say, sometimes I'll get smoke up heavy and I won't say much during the podcast. Sometimes I won't shut the fuck up. It depends on the weed, you know. But
It
usually
for sure does.
edibles, I'm like, oh shit, I'm part of this podcast. I forgot. That happens quite a few times.
I have
But
like a
That's
Balmer's
hilarious.
peak of chattiness with my cannabis use. It's like there's a certain point where I'll get ultra chatty, like can't stop talking at all.
I think I've
Like
noticed
if
that a
I'm
couple times.
too
That's for
high,
good though.
if I'm too high, it'll like
There'll be
generally
dead
like not in a
air.
podcast, but just in like a conversation or like hanging out, I'll stop talking as much. And if I'm like not high enough, I won't talk as much because it's like I don't know. I just got to get to the right level, and then once I get there, I usually come down to the point where I'm like too high and don't necessarily have to. Where my regular life, it's funny because I talk a lot on this podcast, just hosting and trying to keep the flow going or whatever. But and just sometimes being in that peak where I'm like, oh, I'm in that right high.
The zone.
Maybe had like caffeine, or maybe I'm just like naturally feeling high on the fucking topic or whatever. But most of the time, I get to the point where it's like I've smoked enough where I'm past that point where I'm like ultra chatty. I'll be that like that with my wife for a little bit in each part of the day, where I'll just get super high and excited or excitable about certain shit, and then
Yeah, I
look through
I've
that and
been
just calm down.
luckily someone told them like, man, he didn't shut up. I think it's because like when I get my coffee in me, like in the morning, there was a certain time frame where I would smoke and get coffee, and we drove to the job site. So like I was like, yeah, man, he didn't shut the f up. I'm like, I didn't even realize it in my head because like, yeah, I'm like, I don't talk a lot really. I don't. I don't need to meet any new people really in my life, you know. Well, maybe I do, but in my mind, I don't.
Even with people
Um,
I know, it's like sometimes you'll surprise yourself. Like I'll be going to pick up someone I'm going to work out with or whatever, and the client's parents are there, and I'm just chatting with the parents while the client's getting ready or whatever, and we have a few minutes and there's this downtime, and sometimes I'll just like, usually if I'm excited about something, fucking just start blabbering on, and just chit chatting, and then sometimes I'll just like, you know, let them kind of tell me whatever it is that they're excited about. It's a ebb and flow kind of
yeah,
effect, I guess. But it makes you realize, especially like if it's not an every time occurrence, like usually when I get somewhere, it's like they know I'm going to be there at this time. So they're ready and we just fucking go, we do what we're doing. And it's not like I need to have 5, 10, 15-minute conversations with the people that I see all the time or whatever. Um, just to small talk, some would call it. But yeah, it's interesting to see just those little subtleties in our day-to-day life and how I think cannabis can definitely play a role in. I'm admittedly, like I think Spartan talked about this on a past show. I'm the guy who will talk to the fucking person at the corner store checkout, like get to know their name. And like I told you guys, one of them ended up moving to Michigan and growing like, fucking blowing it up, growing tons of plants and like got out of that space. And now he's like doing that for himself now. And so, I'm glad I got to know that guy, but there, I guess as an empathetic person, I look at everyone as like a human being. And even if you're working like what some might consider like a shitty job, even like that person working it might not like it. They're just there to kind of collect a check or whatever and get through their day. When I've been in those positions, like when somebody treated me like a person, like a human, and fucking was just nice, and like I'm not saying have like an hour-long conversation with them, but just like, hey, how's it going? Like, they might have a name tag. Call them by their name. Look them in
do
the
that all the
eye.
time.
Look them in the eye and just be like, you got anything going on after work? Like, you gonna do anything fun this weekend? Oh yeah, I'm actually going fishing out in fucking lake, whatever. It's like, oh, cool. Hope
I've
you get them, dude. Hope you good luck.
One that I'll say often is like if you're in line and you're right behind some fucking just problem fucking customer, someone who's just being a fucking asshole usually, you know. And so,
Mhm.
you wait and wait and wait and wait, and they finally get rid of the fuck, and they go, and you go up there, and the first thing they usually say is, "I apologize for your wait. Thank you for your patience." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, no, no. There's no apology for you. I want an apology from him, the guy that's walking away. I want an apology from that guy. It's like because I've been in your shoes before. I've been pushing the buttons on the register and having to deal with that shit. And then don't apologize to me for that shit. That was that idiot's fault.
Dude, I don't know how many times I've gone up there and been like, dude, I don't know how you deal with these people, man. I don't know, man. I give you all the credit in the world. I could not deal with people like that every day. That's like all day thing, you know. I don't.
Service
I'm not
industry is tough.
surprised. Yeah,
A lot of
but
them drink. I'll
you
say
know,
that. No,
usually the
no
customer.
criticism, but I think there's a connection, a
I
correlation to
think
deal with.
I've
That's when you
seen on
ask them if they
IG
smoke. That's
the
what you say. Hey, I
customer
got
jumps
some.
over the counter more than the employee, and I think it should be the other way around, man. Damn.
This whole
But
customer is
we
always right thing
digress.
has gotten people, I think, into the position where, people can feel entitled and they act inappropriately by most regards. They forget how to have respect and
Oh,
manners
I have a
and common
story.
decency and patience. If they ever had patience, most people, I think that's a skill many don't have, but go ahead, tell.
When I was in New York, I was in Montauk. I forget what I was doing, but I got a taxi, right? And I don't even know the guy, told me how much it was. I'm like, thank you, sir. And he was like, oh
Was it
my
a dirty
God.
taxi?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was a good taxi. And I'm like, thank you, sir, whatever, whatever. He's like, thank you very much. You're the first person that called me sir. You're the first person that talked to me. Thank you so much. Whatever. I was like, wow. I'm like, yeah, I guess, we like, yeah,
You
we
can take
take
for
so much
granted.
for granted. Yeah, man. I see it all the time, more and more in my life, man. I've just been like, knock on wood. I have lived a semi-charmed kind of life, not like Trump or Warren Buffett, but I have no complaints, man. I had fun, so that's I think even the richest people have trouble having fun a lot of the time.
More money, more problems. A lot of the time. Comes with stress, generally. I mean, it can definitely cause a lot of happiness and get to do cool shit and fun shit and have time off and spend time with family or whoever it is that you enjoy spending time with. I think money allows for that, but I also think living a humble lifestyle and simple life can be a lot of fun and enjoyment, and you know, nothing wrong with that. So
Oh, doing a good day's work is always satisfying to me, you know? Certain kind of work,
that's kind of, I
definitely.
think cannabis is,
Yeah.
it falls in that path. It's like you are doing physical work and you get to see, just like if you were to lay a floor tile or wood or paint the side of a building or build something, you get to
That's
see your work. You know, it's
yeah,
like
but
there's a
that's the added
satisfaction.
value. What amazes me with breeding and cannabis or growing things is you we're making money from nothing basically. Like when you look at the economy, we're taking seed and water and we're making dollars, or you can make dollars out of it. Whereas everything else, you have to buy
You
it. You
absolutely
have to
can.
you have to
You still
buy
can.
stuff and put it together. You know, like whatever it is, this is almost taking nothing and creating value. Where there's not a lot of things where you can take almost nothing and create value like that.
This isn't just cannabis, but the I saw some stat, and I think it was from Statista, and there's obviously they can't actually track the number, but there's estimates that the underground or unregulated economy, just like people buying and selling shit that's like outside of markets, is like $11 trillion per year in the US. It's a fuck ton of like money being, it might have been worldwide, but still
Woo!
that's a shit ton of money.
We gotta
That's
get those
and
numbers up, people. Come
I
on.
think
And
it
that's
said like
added
10 to
value.
12%.
Like if someone grows like I don't encourage this, and I've never done it for money. But if someone grows $100,000 worth of weed and sells it to someone else, right, and then they are a middleman, they sell to someone else. That's like creating an economy of monies that people didn't have almost from nothing. Like yeah,
Like
like
Amazon
yeah,
did.
and it
What you're
always
talking about
amazed
is
me
it really is an economy. I
from
mean,
that seed you get a plant. It never ceases to amaze me what comes from that seed.
Man,
I
that
mean,
sounds crazy. I've never
what
done that before myself either. But hey, I will say this before we get off this topic, man. I freaking love growing weed. I love that sense of accomplishment. There's nothing greater than watching it the whole time, and you have that like just 10 out of 10 harvest. I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years, and my last harvest was awesome, and I was like almost high fiving myself, like. And it's almost kind of like sometimes like I know like my wife, she's like, oh my God, here he comes again talking about his plants. But it's so much fun to me, and it's such a great sense of accomplishment. And I'm not gonna lie, honestly, I don't even care if this sounds corny. It's given me personally purpose. So I'll just say that.
Not, and I can't agree more with what Noah just said. And but to add to that, it's also like given me the love of growing other plants. And like literally just today I was looking at the weather to dodge between the fucking rains coming through. And I was able to get in my potatoes. I was able to get in my peas. I was able to get in a few onions. I need to do more. And I was able to get in all the lettuces and the spinach. And we're all planted. You know, we've already got stuff in the ground. We are not all planted, but we got a lot more to go. But we got a lot planted. Oh, carrots. Carrots went in today too.
what
So
kind of carrots?
I don't know. What do you mean? What kind of
Are they
carrots?
just like orange, multicolored? Do you mix it
There's
up?
Orange, yeah,
purple
just
ones.
the standard orange ones. Yep, just the regular orange ones.
I was wondering because I always like to hear what people are growing. I know that there's different benefits to the different colors and things like that, but the standard orange carrot, there's a reason it's grown at such a wide variety. People like the taste. It grows well in a lot of different environments and things like
Stores for
that.
a
So
long time. Stores for a long time, pretty easy too, which is a nice thing. Mixes with a lot of things well too. So yeah, carrots for sure. And we're going to be doing a lot more stuff too this year. We're really putting in a lot of effort. I'm going to be putting in more beds in the backyard and really putting an effort into make a big garden space. In fact, I'm even putting in a fence to keep the dogs out so I can actually have
Who kept the
more,
dogs out?
yeah, be more successful in the garden outside. So
I agree with Noah though, but I had an identity crisis when I don't have plants growing somewhere. Like, what is my reason for being here? There is during this move, I had contradictions of all that. Like, yeah,
I was
that's how I view myself as a cannabis cultivator more than anything else in the whole world.
I was on strict orders to not move around after open heart surgery, where I had my main valve replaced with a metal valve. And less than 5 weeks after that, I got up to the freaking grow table and was helping my wife and my buddy trim, and they're like, "You don't have to do that. You're not supposed to do that." And I'm like, "I have to do it. I want to do it." So believe me, it helped me come out of that quite a bit. Just knowing, like, well, I don't, I'm disabled now, but I'm going to still be able to do this. I'm still going to be able to accomplish something. And like I said, so for me personally, it's a big freaking deal. And that's why I enjoy hanging out with you guys. And that's why I enjoy talking about it so much, because I love it.
Talk about perspective, man. I mean, it really, all of us, I think, it has given us purpose at one point and still does. It's such a major part of our lives. We come together for this show 2 hours a week for no other reason than just to share that common purpose of
And
growing the dank and being part, not just that inner purpose, that intrinsic, I feel like, satisfaction of like, holy shit, I did something from nothing. Like Tao said, you can almost like cash grow on trees. Like you can literally like look up the pound price of cannabis, like the seed, soil, and electricity and whatever. You're gonna like, if you do it right, you're gonna beat the cost, right?
if you do it
So you can
outside, you could, yeah, like doing it outside is even what I
even
did.
better
Yeah,
returns, right? So it's just like
zero.
there's still a way to like get like return on your investment, which it can be a pretty small one, but it's just fuck, where was it going?
I know where you were going because I was going to say it. So I had the plant in my backyard, and I was so happy that I met a couple of people here, and I gave them samples. Like I hardly did anything with this plant. You could do this. So that's part. Not only intrinsically, like we feel better about ourselves, but we like helping other people do it too, because it definitely changes people's lives when they if they are sick or not even sick. Like I know so many people that are like us that like we turned them on to it. You know.
That and the community element, like that part of like helping people like friends and like people locally, but like this community, like the people in the chat that I've like got to actually meet now in person, like smoke down with, fucking get to like see face to face and like realize like there are these real people out there listening that are like being like myself or like Spartan or like any of us per their town. They're that guy, not the mirror image, but they're their own version of it. They're the weed grower who's hooking people up and being nice and being friendly and thoughtful and like a good represent like people that I would put up for if there was going to be influencers, right? Of like the thing. Like I'd trust anybody in our chats right now and on this panel to like be a good spokesperson for cannabis. That's why I love seeing Spartan going to the Capitol and speaking and trying to make policy change because I know the quality of his character by speaking with him for years at this point, hours and hours and hours. We You get a sense of who someone is, what they care about, and where their heart's at. And we have a lot of great representation here on the show and in this community. And getting not only like the intrinsic satisfaction of doing it yourself at home, but then getting to realize like, oh shit, everybody has this discovery at some point. If they get into the online cannabis space, it's like, holy fuck, there's like thousands of other people doing this too. They love it as much as I do. I can talk to all these people. I can share photos with them. They're gonna be as hype as I am, and I can be hyped for them. And we could fucking help each other and pump each other up and lift each other up, and not be in a space where, even though as much as we love it, there are probably people in our lives that are probably against it still, locally around you, or just like, um, there are those people out there that are just like gonna hold their nose up and just look down on cannabis use of any type. So we are all the green sheeps together, and I think there's something amazing about that community and self-fulfillment aspect, and why we all kind of feel it gives us a sense of purpose.
I went to my mentor's house the other day, and I'm hanging out with him. And he grows still. And I go out and I'm like, oh, let's check out your grow room. And he has a 4x4 veg grow tent. And on the side of it, he has another 4x4 that he just bought. And I should have took a picture of it. I'll text him and tell him, send me a picture. Maybe I'll post it in our group chat. He's got no BS. There must be 70 or 80, solo cups in there. But he has just everything you can think of. All these flowers. He had toad lilies, morning glories, all these sunflowers, all this stuff he's starting. And I'm like, hey, you don't have a garden. He goes, yeah, but I already talked to my landlord. I'm going to make that section over there a garden. He said if I regrass it when I move out, I can do it. And I'm just like, I can't believe he's giving me all these little starts for my wife and like sunflowers and all this.
That's
and I'm
awesome.
looking at his stash and I'm like, holy smokes, what is that? This is that tag along I was telling you about. He convinced me. I took a cut from him. I got the tag along. I got the lemon tree. And he's crazy. He just goes in there, snips it off, gives it to me, wraps it in a paper towel, puts it in a bag, and says, "When you get home, just recut it and stick it right in your cloner." I'm just like, all right, man.
That's called a slip, man. That's the
Yeah.
that's the old school way of doing it.
It's a lot of fun, and it's really funny to be around people that are, and like you said, he's into growing everything. His in front of his house, he has all these trees. He's like, "You see that tree? We were out in the woods, and I seen it grow on the side of the road. I jumped out, pulled it out of the ground, put it in my car, and got home and planted it." He's got all kinds of crazy stuff. I got this little miniature blue spruce that he gave me a few years ago that I've had for a few years.
That's one of my favorite plants,
And
bro.
It's
I love blue
beautiful,
spruce.
beautiful plant. And I
It
even
smells
told him,
so nice.
I'm like, "I love that little tree right there." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not giving that tree away. I got another one, but that's my best one." And I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Then we're leaving." "Yeah, okay, take that blue spruce with you. You'll love it." And I'm like, "All right." And I've had it for a few years. So,
Dude, that's my
It's,
favorite.
yeah.
We would always get a fresh tree. In Ohio where I live, you get horse-drawn fucking like wagons pull you out to the middle of like the Christmas tree farm. You get to feed the horses apples and shit, and then go saw down your tree. And there's a bunch of different species, but the blue spruce is one that many
Oh, it
years
looks
we chose.
artificial. It looks like it can't be real. It's so
It looks like a greenish bluish, like it
Yeah.
doesn't look like a real pine tree, but it smells great. I used to we get like wax melts and stuff we don't do candles. It's just like a little electronic heater and it melts the wax and it smells nice. I don't want my cats to fucking catch on fire or whatever, but the blue spruce one we had was so nice. And there's a couple like other firs and things like that that have like really nice piney richness to them, but blue spruce is like Spartan said, it looks like it can't be real. Like it's just like why is it that color? Like why is it not quite? It looks like if you had a TV that could adjust the setting of the colors, like you put it to like a mode that was not quite right, like a game or like a back when like I'm probably dating myself, but like there was like a movies setting, you'd push a button and it would like change for like movies. It'd be like one darkness and like sharpness, and then you like hit like sports and it would change to like a brighter or whatever, like different color setting. And yeah, it's fucking that's how that tree, like when you looked at it, it just looked like it was on a different setting than the rest of reality around it because the color kind of, at least to me, seemed foreign. And like it wasn't, like I said, they had a bunch of different species. So maybe every 10th one was a blue spruce. It wasn't like a ultra common one, and we'd always try and find one that would fit, like on our car slash in our house. We'd have a little tape measure or whatever, and saw it down. Good times.
It kind of looks like a fog that when you look at it, right? It's bizarro that you're right.
I love the actual pine trees and piney cannabis. My wife and I were just watching something about Durban and some like nature documentary, and I was like, yeah, that's the same Durban that like Durban poison is from. Where I was just smoking on like last week, and man, it's cool the international nature of cannabis and how many different places it can not just exist but thrive. I mean, from Alaska to fucking the equator and everywhere in between, and a lot of places in South America and Africa and Australia. And I mean, is there a place that it's not growing? I'm pretty sure it's growing everywhere. South America,
Antarctica.
Antarctica, yeah, it's probably the one that's not.
But the lands beyond the ice wall, it's definitely growing
And
abundantly.
Tartaria and the
guarantee
mud flood.
I guarantee it's growing in New Zealand, and that's like the
For sure.
closest country to Antarctica, so it's pretty close.
And I bet you some researchers have grown cannabis on
Oh, for
some
sure.
research thing in
They haven't
Antarctica at
grown it.
some
They
point.
definitely imported it in there
So-
with fucking
And
smoke.
wait,
on.
you know what you guys are just making me think of? Is Greenland all ice?
Greenland?
Greenland
Yeah,
is
Greenland
icy
ice,
and
yeah.
Iceland is green. That
And
is like
right.
the old Viking trick, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It still is kind of that way.
and that's what we want though. They got
But it's not
listeners
icy all the
underneath
time. I'm
there?
pretty sure Greenland actually does have like summer.
Okay.
Like
So
it's
maybe
not
Like
like
the
a
shoreline. The shoreline
got
is where they have most of the cities and stuff.
the mad cannabis Greenland during the summer. Maybe that's why Trump wants it so bad.
He wants the
It's-
minerals.
there's a lot of reasons
I
to
know,
want
I know.
Greenland. Only 6% of them purportedly want to be part of the US. So shout out to
Yo.
that 6%, y'all. Welcome to the US. Come here anytime you want. No,
I
but I'm just
refrain
Joke.
from saying stuff, but yeah, he's doing some wild things lately. Yeah,
we won't get into that, but I will just say to anyone in Greenland, from the US, we love you and Sorry about if
Yeah,
any crazy
everyone
shit's been going
across the
on.
world, we love you. We just hate some of your governments, man. Or at least
And
that's
that's
my
probably how they
view.
feel
That's
about their
my
own
opinion
governments.
only. I don't talk for everyone,
We
but
even hate our own government sometimes.
Yeah,
That's the
oh,
simple
100.
a lot of the time. That's why like there's a
Yeah.
chart that says like government trust and it's like going down and down and down and down. And I'm like, why would anyone be mad about like cutting government spending? Like obviously no one trusts it because we all see it, whether it's like the post office or like some government contract that you've had that you got like paid too much and you realize like, man, we shouldn't have got paid that much. Like we never get paid that much for whatever. It's just government waste. Like
All
everyone
right.
sees it
Well,
at every different point. Everyone has known it for so many years and
now
it's
that you
finally getting
say that,
exposed.
Jack, someone pointed out there's a pack of dogs laying down. You throw a rock, the one that gets hit is going to be the one that's yapping.
That's a
So
good point,
yeah,
but
that's
not to say like if you got fired or laid off due to some of the cuts, I uh,
yeah.
I feel for you, and I don't think that it's cause to go and burn down uh, you know car dealerships or
You know
anything.
what?
I think violence is not warranted under any circumstance. There's
I
other
think
you can get another job, people. It's not the
anyone
end of the
who's
fucking world.
feeling uncomfortable, angry, or hateful or diseased should give us write me on Instagram and I'll send you some seeds.
You need to send them a cookie. There's a little bit of flour to
Well,
help taper
yeah.
them down to get them in the right mindset. Because if
Oh,
you're like,
speaking of which, I didn't say I was smoking on some of the autoflower that I grew out that seed person had gifted me, and I won't go into anything, but my what they call it, my vacuum sealer is wasn't working, but I'm working on it because yeah, I'll call it whatever. All right. I'm stoned. I'm sorry. Those autos were good, man. That's a good auto strain. If anybody got them beans from Seed Person One, there's definitely some winning vinos in there that are like I'm impressed with this
modern
one.
autos can smoke really well.
The one though, I rolled into a joint. I'm freaking blown out.
That's the other thing is like when you haven't smoked something like first couple times, like it's definitely gonna get you super stoned. So if you mix it up, especially what you can with autos, like it's nice to have variety, extra flavors, different stones and things like that. And what you mentioned is like with different growers, I think perspective of the grower can actually like if you gave someone who is like an angry, pissed off person a bunch of seeds and then they grew that stuff, you almost like taste it in the weed. It's gonna be like the angry man weed. And this is like hippy dippy of me, and y'all might think Jack this is total bullshit. But if you fucking meet like the super chilled out, laid back dude and smoke their bud, it's gonna be like more mellow vibes. Like fucking depending on the strain or whatever. But I just think that there's like an energy or some shit. I don't know what the fuck the word is. There is something more to it than just like the dollars and cents, the soil and nutrients, the fucking hydro or like Spartan and I could grow in the same exact soil, under the same exact lights, in the same exact tent, on the same fans, same seeds from the same breeder. And I would guarantee you, our stuff's going to taste different. It might be similar, but there's going to be a difference. And there's going to be a difference in the effect. And like you could say it's barometric pressure. Like we could control for as many variables as possible. And not just me and Spartan, but if Noah wanted to adopt our kind of style and if Tao wanted to grow, if we all said we're going to grow with this exact base soil, we're only going to make these amendments and use this size pots and these lights, we're still going to have four completely different products,
Yeah.
which I
All
think
right,
is
but
the beauty of it.
let me push back on your one point though. I believe the power of the plant. So when the guy receives the shit in the mail, he'd be like, I can't believe this idiot sent me these seeds, but I'm gonna grow them. So he plants them, and they come up. He's like, oh my god, my little babies, and then his heart softens, and he becomes a cool person, and he's happy. And then by the time they're flowering out, he's like, oh my god, look at this. And then he dries it, he smokes it. He's like, wow, I was an asshole. Now I see the light, and yeah. So there you go. Maybe the plant can affect the people more than the people can affect the plant in certain situations. Giddy up.
Yeah, that
I
really
think
illustrates.
subconsciously always it controls us. We're doing its bidding.
Yeah, I think it illustrates too, like I like to say a lot, there's a lot of healing not in just the plant, but to grow the plant. There's a lot of just the hobby of growing, of caring for another living thing and then being rewarded at the end for it. There's a lot to that too. And like what you just described was a perfect example of that.
Speaking of living things, I'm a cat owner, pet owner. I know Noah the Groa was hanging with one of his family's cats earlier. And shout out to all the cat people out there. I think a lot of the pet owners I see in the cannabis space tend to be great, dog, cat, or whatever. It could be a lizard, whatever it is that you're into, fish. Um, they care about them like they're part of the family, which I've always kind of treated pets like that. And I think if you're one of those people, shout out to you. Because if I ever come to your place, chances are I'm gonna spend more time, at least in the beginning, hanging with the cat or the dog than a lot of the people at a lot of the places, especially if there's a bunch of people. That's like one of my introvert who does extrovert shit things hack is whenever I go to a party or somewhere where maybe I don't know a whole lot of people, if there's a pet or a dog or a cat or something like that, I'll go and fucking just start playing with the dog because usually dogs they're easy to have warm up to you. You pet them a little bit, give them a little, neck scratch or chin rub. They'll be your best friend for the rest of the night. And I think that there's something great about having a pet in your life. And they can be, some people hate it, but they're like I've seen people rage underneath my photos and others. Like, why do you have your cat in your garden? They're gonna get hair in there. I'm like, I can pick the hair out, guys. It's not the end of the world. So it's a small home grow. I'm not gonna, you know, freak out if my cat's in there for a few seconds and I, feed them a leaf or they gnaw a leaf or two off the bottom while I'm watching and not really caring. But yeah, shout out to all the animal lovers and pet lovers. Speaking of which, Spartan Grown is a dog owner. And I'm not sure if there's a Michigan Grow Show tonight or not, but usually this is the time I pass it over to him. So I'm going to hand him the mic and check in.
Yes, we do have a show tonight, and yeah, I am a dog owner, and I was just looking for him. He's right behind me, hiding from me. But yeah, we're gonna go outside and use the bathroom facilities in the backyard, and get ready for the next show. So yeah, thank you very much. This was a great episode. I really enjoyed it, and shout out to chat, everybody who keeps showing up week after week, year after year now. Man, I'm starting to feel old. We've been doing this thing for a while. But much love, everybody, and as always, keep growing.
Keep growing.
Peace
It's going to
out,
be real
Spartan.
wild when we hit 10 years, man. And we're going to do it. We're fucking more than halfway there. So nothing's stopping us now. Thanks, Spartan. Always great to have Spartan on, and I do agree. I think this has been a fun one so far. A variety of good topics. I do like talking about different perspectives of different things. I guess I can be kind of vague or generic, but that allows us to open up for a lot of different things. I also like shouting out good people in the community. I think that as many not so good folks as there can be in any community, um, it can be easy to focus on the drama and the hype and the downsides. And there are those, but I actually do think it's a very small portion. From what I see, like I think the cannabis community kind of represents what I used to think the whole world was like because I grew up around a lot of really good people. I used to think like 99 out of 100 people are great, nice, kind, generous, uh, you know, respectful types. And maybe that's more being generous, but that's kind of how it felt for me for a long time. And then like I got a dose of the real world in a lot of different places in a lot of different ways. It made me realize probably the percentages aren't that high. But in the cannabis space, it's just like man, like at least 9 out of 10, if not 99 out of 100. It's like just really genuine, awesome, especially in the grower side of things. I've been fortunate to have my, I guess, rose-colored glasses or maybe realistic perspective of the positive side of human beings as a whole restored because the amount of generosity and genuine, just like over the top, um, hooking people up of like that they don't even know in this space that happens so regularly is it's really heartwarming to see. And I think, like
I
Kyle
would
mentioned,
say
yeah, go ahead.
I had a similar experience, but in a little different. When I was growing up, I thought everybody's family was like mine, and as I got older and older, I met people that didn't have a mother that loved them at all, and that never even crossed my mind like that would be a thing. Like I couldn't, yeah, I was freaking old when I realized that could be a thing for real. I thought it was innate that the mother always loved their babies, but some mothers don't love their children, man. That's crazy. But yeah, I saw that with rose-colored glasses. That was a freak out when I was old when I came to that realization and how privileged I was. But
Just how like some people would
I
even like
only
talk to their moms, even if their parent wasn't like terrible, like some of these kids I see like on TV shows or even like just in modern
Yeah,
society.
yeah.
They'll like
My
cuss at their
my mother
parents.
doesn't have enough followers.
They'll swear at their parents in front of them. And like I'm just like, oh my fucking God, I can't believe they just mouthed off to their parents like that. Like I would never think of that. But like you're saying,
That's what.
it's easy to have the perspective that everyone is kind of like the household or whatever, the family that you grew up with.
Yeah, we think everybody's like us, and everybody knows what we know, and everybody thinks what we think. But yeah, while we're on the sub, I remembered a whole bunch of other people. We got the Chris Guerrero Grow Show, Future Cannabis Project channels. It's all about the biology. Grow Like a Viking, I think is the guy's name. He's not a cannabis. Actually, he does talk about cannabis too, though. But he grows everything, and he's like, yeah, those are
A
whole.
channel like
There's
that,
so many.
Growing Your
The
Greens with
organic
John
green.
Kohler.
Yep, yep.
He
There
does a
you
lot of
go.
different stuff, but he like interviews cannabis growers and goes to cannabis farms, but he teaches
Yep,
people how to like grow their vegetables organically. He talks about like rock dust and different good organic soil mixes. And he does this stuff like he got real stoned one time making like a cannabis
yep.
like he juiced cannabis or
Raw
something and didn't
cannabis.
expect to get high. But he ended up getting real high. So who knows if it was placebo or not. But John Kohler from Growing Your Greens on YouTube, he's just a fascinating guy. He's a
He's
Californian.
pretty cool, dude.
I
Cause
love his channel. He's just got good
he
vibes.
yeah. I was watching him before he. I realized he like even talked about cannabis, and the
Same.
cops had gone to his house and
They raided his
searched his
house
house.
thinking
Yeah,
it
they
was
raided his house,
grow with
and
the
he
pink grow light.
gladly let him in and showed off all his vegetables that was growing in the house. He didn't have one cannabis plant. That's the best story, dude.
I
I
saw that
thought that
video
was
as well.
so
That might be
awesome.
where I found his channel, dude. He was
And
growing
then,
like a
but then
palm in
since
his
then,
like
he's
bath
like
in his shower.
he he's interviewed the Boogie Brew guy. Like that's the great.
Yeah.
He goes to that one dude's garden in California, and if you want to do it, man, that's the way to do it. Listen, the guy digs a freaking big asshole circle, huge. Then he lines it with fence or something, so like gophers won't come in. So that's the first thing. So that's one defense mechanism, and then all
And
the other
believe me,
shit.
we've
But
got gophers out here, boy. I saw a shit ton of them this weekend.
so there you go. That's what. Yeah, that's the steps that must be taken to avoid that if you're really serious and want to have
It's
don't
a
no
good
worries.
practice for the different ground pests and things like that generally. And I've seen a lot of people do like either chicken wire or some sort of like
Yeah,
metal fencing
exactly.
around like a large space that would be their root ball and digging it out and filling that full of like fresh, good, high quality soil. So you know it's got aerated, high nutrient. Like some of these guys are growing, 10 foot by 10 foot, 10-pound plus plants, and
Yeah, that's pretty much what the guy was saying. And so that guy, John, what I don't know what his name is, growing my what's it called?
John Kohler from Growing Your Greens.
Growing greens, right? He like what he did follow up. He went there like three times throughout this whole thing, and he let the guy explain what he did, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a cool kid.
he's done it a couple seasons now too, and great channel to follow and check out. And it's predominantly not cannabis, which is kind of a nice change of pace if you're really into this side of things and you listen to like cannabis all the time. It can be a nice way to branch yourself out into growing some of the non-cannabis things because even like plumeria, like I talking about like having purpose, like seeing my wife's smile and fucking joy when our plumeria that she found at the side of her work that she rooted in a watering can just randomly on the side of our house. Seeing her just pure joy every single time she can pull those flowers out and put it in her ear or put it in her hair and just like it's not even a plant that you can eat, but I put like my heart and love into like the soil and like transplanted it up like I would like a weed plant. And now everyone in my neighborhood asks me for plumeria tips, and it's just the funniest thing to me. But it's just like it's a passion I never would have even thought about having, but now I fucking love plumerias. I've got like 5 or 6 different varieties, and we're growing a whole bunch of different ones now. And my cat's getting some attention up here, but she is not a plumeria fan because they're all outside. She can't get to them, but she does love cannabis, and that's another great flower you can grow. And I need to start growing it myself again. I've been putting it off and putting it off, but it's certainly something I need to get back into. This is the longest hiatus I've taken since I started growing. And a lot of reasons that I won't get into because more just personal life stuff. Everything's good, just busy, and sometimes in life, you know, gotta make hay while the sun is shining. And just like Smot and Crispy, Business is good. I'm doing well, well enough. I'm not like a zillionaire or billionaire or millionaire or any of that shit, but I can pay my bills and I'm not out of business yet.
And
So
hey, you're not allowed to grow it outside, are you? Where you are?
no, not legally,
I
but
mean,
people do.
that's yeah, that sucks.
It does.
Because that's like I'm telling you, I did the most minimal thing, like shit. Because it was in my backyard, and I had like probably like 6 to 8 females that were kicking, and I killed them all except for one because I didn't want to make an obvious. And then I only went and visited it a couple times because I didn't want people watching me Google over the plant and realize it was weed. But man, that shit was legit at the end of it all. I mean, it could have been better. It was
That's my
definitely
primary
legit.
concern is like I have kids live right next door that are like young,
Mm,
and I know everyone in the neighborhood at this point, and like I'm friends with all of them, and like the girl across the way, I gave a plant, and she grew it out, but it was like a 1 foot tall, like one cola, mixed in with like 20 different other plants on their
right.
patio.
You couldn't even see it probably.
Exactly. I didn't even know until she harvested it and gave me a nug. And but if I was gonna do it, I would wanna. I know myself, and it's just like I try not to accept anything less than like an 8 out of 10, at least from like my ability and you know, self-perception of the quality. Like if it's not gonna be an 8 out of 10, I'm not gonna go through the effort of even kind of like starting it up. And especially when like I've got great genetics that are kind of like not like exclusive or they kind of are. Fuck it, I'll say they are. Fucking granted, Spartan is very generous with the seeds, but like the getting access to the vortex again, Subcool is no longer here. Getting it from a very verified, legitimate source, Spartan who got it from a grow shop who had a bunch of them in original packaging is just like it's kind of like a gift from the past that is like a modern continuation and preservation project that I care a lot about and don't want to like um let down again because the first time I popped them, they did so well in veg and they smelled good. I just can't even remember what the reason was. I couldn't continue that run. But yeah, I, that run I popped like 5 or 6 different strains and the Project V was shining above everything else. So that's why I was like, the next run I do is all Project V, the Vortex F2s from Spartan. And I'm getting close to that place where I would say no more than 2 months from now. Also, I've been putting off my book, but that's more, there's some personal stuff going on with the person who I have do the stuff, some of my stuff for me on the back end with the formatting. And I need to check in with them and see because they messaged me once on YouTube and I don't remember the exact specifics, but there's been delays on that end. I've got all my stuff done and I'm just sort of waiting. And I know that probably is driving some of you guys crazy and maybe I could find someone else to format it, but I'm maybe guilty of being loyal to a fault. And if somebody's done good by me in the past, I try to stick with them. And this person's done good by me in the past. And really, with just like I talked about earlier with the cannabis community, they had no real reason. They didn't owe me anything. I didn't pay them anything, but they just went through 50 Strands of Green 1.0 and said like, "Hey, I could improve this for you," and did it for free. So the 2.0 was just this random act of kindness from a person in the community. And I'm like, that was really amazing. And for the second one, I wanted to contract them to do the work because it legitimately saves me like several hours and I'm a busy person. So if I can save myself many hours and I know what I'm worth per hour and what I make and I can justify even like expensing paying this person to do something that they did for free. Um, so I want to wait and line something up so I can kind of thank them and take care of them and do good by them because they've done good by me. And maybe that's a flaw that somebody can expose, but if in so doing somebody has to be good by me, I'll take that risk, because people that do good for others, especially like in this case, out of the pure kindness of their heart and just generosity, generally aren't the type of people to like go and treat like shit or take advantage of you. Um, this guy I know is a good guy, so I'm gonna, you know, if they passed on, I'm not gonna, never release it. But other than that, like as soon as they're well and they get their devices in order, I'll let them do the project and compensate them for it. But that's where I'm at with that. And yeah, we're coming up to the final minute here. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up and say this has been a fun one, and I'm gonna pass it first to Noah the Grower.
Yeah, I had a blast. Always learn a lot of new stuff from everyone, and have a good time doing it. On Instagram, if you want to look me up, I'm Noah the Grower. I'll see you next week.
It was a pleasure having you as always. And last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening is the American one.
Jack, as always, thanks for hosting. I'm glad you're a talker. It definitely helps out. Noah DeGrello, always good seeing you. Thanks to everyone who came by and chat. Always good to see everyone in chat. And yeah, this was a good one. And we'll see you guys next week or somewhere in between. Everybody have a great night and a great week.
Thank you so much for joining us, Tao. Really appreciate your time, and you as well, Noah and Spartan earlier, and everybody who's here hanging out with us live on the YouTube. Some of y'all probably don't even realize that the show is on YouTube. Many listen on Apple Podcasts or some podcast platform somewhere after the fact on Monday, whenever I can get it up onto the podcast platforms, or X, which is the most recent place that I've been posting it. So shout out to everybody who listens wherever you listen. We really do appreciate all of you, and it has been a pleasure to meet the handful of people that I've gotten to meet in the community and on this panel, and it's just been a real pleasure. I love doing this. You can find me at Jack Greenstock on Instagram. Jack_Greenstock is my account on X, where I'll be posting this tomorrow at some point. And if you want any of my products and anything, you can find it at 50strains.com. But we're gonna wrap it up. It's 6 o'clock here on the West Coast. Peace and love, y'all. Catch y'all on the next week. Cheers.
Keep growing.